Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhound Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. Ryan Higginbotham and Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh will be calling in. He is on daddy daycare duty this morning. Say that 5 times fast. So he's got his hands full with his little one, but he'll be calling in, as we say. He'll be live via satellite from parts unknown. Beyond the Game is the palate cleanser this morning because, as you would expect, the Greensburg girls from our softball team were in on Coach Messer's show and did a phenomenal job, as you would expect. But we're the palate cleanser because you can tell she's a rookie head coach. Coach Kane comes in and gives a shout-out to Joe Kane. Everybody just feels icky now because you cannot give kudos to Joe Kane. I mean, what are we doing here, people? And, of course, I kid. Joe is a dear friend of mine and gives so much of his time, volunteers, obviously to help out his daughter, but he's done it for years, just giving back to the kids and to the programs that he has coached in. So I kid, of course. I have to give Joe a hard time. So I don't know what we want to get into to start here without Josh, Ryan, so I'm going to give you the floor. Maybe we give you the 30 seconds. You can't really gloat anymore, I don't think, about the Reds. But give us a Cincinnati Reds update and where we stand, because I have a feeling my Cubs are starting to get it figured out. They're starting to play a little bit better, and it's not going to be long before everybody is looking up at the Cubs.
Well, I'll tell you what, like you said, the cannot really gloat anymore about the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are probably the worst offensive baseball team I have ever watched. I'll just say this. Yes, they scored 8 runs on Wednesday. Since then, they've scored a combined 2 in 2 games.
Boom.
Now,
it's not going to win you much.
They're not, but they are. It's the first time since 2008 a team is 9-0 in the first however many games to start the season, and games that they have won with only 2 or less runs.
Well, but that's setting yourself up, though, because, it goes back to what Josh has talked about when it came to the Kansas City Chiefs. They had won, 18 or 19 one-score games, and then this past season that script literally flipped, and they lost every single one of those. So you thought you saw a trend. So I would say as a Reds fan, it's a cool stat to have right now, but that's got to make you just a touch nervous.
It does, and I look at the stats. Nobody's hitting out of the water. The rookie Sal Stewart, the grand slam the other night. He's still hitting his best. He's still hitting bombs. But outside of that, nobody's really hitting the greatest. But the one thing that I like to focus on right now, and at least the entirety of baseball, the Dodgers are still the best team in baseball. They have 15 wins. It's their best, weirdly enough, it's their best start since 1977. And they're, 2-time defending World Series champions. And everything about it just screams not real.
Do we have Josh with us now?
We do.
We have Josh Lee calling in live via satellite from parts unknown. We gave everybody the update that you were on daddy daycare duty this morning. And so you might be running around, even though it's only one, it's going to be like trying to herd cats, I have a feeling.
Yeah, she's pretty much everywhere. Right now we're watching a little Elmo, so we're content for 20 minutes or so. But I'll be in and out a little bit. But there's too much going on in the sports world and with the beloved Hoosiers, so I had to jump on.
But before we got into anything, I gave Ryan the floor like I did last week, because last week he was able to gloat about the Reds, and now I'm like, okay, you can have some Reds talk, but I have a feeling that the ability to gloat is we're creeping towards that edge where, water's going to find its level. And it's like I told him, Cubs are starting to figure some things out. But, I just pulled up the standings. The Pirates and the Reds are tied for the lead in the Central at 12-8. But make this make sense. The Reds are 12-8. The Cardinals are 11-8. So they're like, the Reds are tied for first. The Cardinals are a half game out. They both have minus 12 run differentials. Minus 12.
Yeah.
The Cubs, now granted, they're only 10-9. They're a game and a half out. We're incredibly early in the season. The Cubs are technically in last place in the division with a plus 27 run differential. Make it make sense. But then, like, you start to look around, and obviously the Dodgers, best team in baseball, absolutely killing it. They have a plus 52 run differential. But the amazing thing is that is not the best in baseball. The Atlanta Braves, after unceremoniously, like they were predicted by a lot of people to be World Series bound last year and did not have a good year. They're in first place right now with a plus 53 run differential. So obviously still incredibly early in the baseball season, but I had to give Ryan just a little bit of time, and then there will be no more Cincinnati Reds talk.
Yeah, water will find its level, and it's the Reds are 9-0 in games decided by 2 runs or less this year. And if you watched any of the Reds last year, one of the main reasons that they had to play the Dodgers in the first round of the playoffs was because they lost most of their extra inning games. They lost a ton of close games. Bullpens were blowing leads, but for not having 2 of your 3 best starters and your 3rd best starter, who was an all-star last year, and Andrew Abbott not pitching up to what he normally has, and also, by the way, having the worst offense in baseball up to this point, I'll take 12-8. They don't ask how, they ask how many. And, being 12-8, Water's going to find its level on the pitching side of things in those 1 and 2 run games. But I don't think the Reds are going to hit 185 with runners in scoring position all year, and I don't think they're going to hit 202 all season as a team batting average. When the batting average, MLB batting average is around 250, 255. So I think their offense is going to get a little bit better. I think their pitching is going to probably get a little bit worse until they can bring back Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green. But rookie Sal Stewart is hitting about 380. And he's got 5 or 6 home runs on the year. He's just been awesome. Ellie's actually on pace for a 50-50 season this early in the season. So that's enough Reds talk, because I know next week they're probably going to be 12 and however many games they play, 12 and 15 by that point in time. So.
Okay, Reds talk officially done. No more.
Done.
Well,
no more. It's a lot of baseball the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no kidding. Too much. Because, I mean, and I have nothing against baseball. Obviously it's been spoken about. Your guys' affinity for the Reds, mine for the Cubs. But when you play 162 games and you're only 20 games into the season, why care? I mean, unless you're a Dodgers fan and you're trying to see if you're going to break a record for wins in a season, because their backups to their backups would be all-stars on other teams, is how ridiculous it has gotten with their wealth of talent, and and this is not a shot at them, that they literally just go out and buy. But this early in the season, it's hard to, I don't mean, again, this isn't a shot at the Reds. When you haven't been consistently good for a lot of years, when you're showing promise, it's fun to get excited about and things, but man, 162 games, it literally doesn't start to matter until July, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But, so you mentioned it just kind of off the cuff there as you were getting on the air with us. How about the Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball program and the haul that Darren DeVries and his staff were able to get out of the transfer portal just this past week, adding 6 players? 5 of the 6, all 6 have played Power 4 basketball, so we're not getting people from Florida Gulf Coast and Bryant and places like that. They've all played Power 4 conference. 5 of the 6 were starters at Power 4 conference schools, and the one that wasn't a starter, you'll have to help me with his name, Josh. This is the way of the world now when you literally replace your roster every year.
Yeah, Darren Harris.
Yeah,
Darren Harris,
from Duke.
Yeah.
Was a McDonald's All-American, top 30 recruit, and just happened to, his freshman year, was behind, one Con Kneppel, who's probably going to be Rookie of the Year this year in the NBA. And then this past season was behind, I can't remember his name, but a kid that's considered a lottery pick coming out of Duke. So it's not like this kid is suddenly going to come in and average 30 for IU, but it's not like they got a scrub bum. I mean, the kid was behind Rookie of the Year and lottery pick at Duke, and just couldn't break through. Well, I mean, how many people could? Let's be honest. So super excited about what IU has done. I keep going back and forth on whether I'm more excited about Marcus Burton or Aiden Sherrill, the big out of Alabama. I think I keep coming back to, I always circle back to Marcus Burton, point guard from Notre Dame, and it's got to make you excited when the powers that be that have a very good insight into IU. And even though Josh and I have been slamming him over the past 6 months or so, Jeff Rabjohn from Peegs.com, when it comes to his talent evaluation, and he's incredibly level-headed on managing expectations and things, but when he comes out and says that this is the best point guard IU has had since Yogi Ferrell, who is, I mean, Yogi, depending who you talk to, is considered, he's at least in the conversation for the best point guard to ever play at IU. You've got to be incredibly excited about, at least on paper, what Darren DeVries has done. And yes, I know there's going to be those naysayers out there. Well, when Mike Woodson got Omar Ballo and all these guys, well, don't forget who was coaching that group. I led that off with Mike Woodson got. And so we've seen it before that IU has gotten a haul of talent, and then how it turned out for IU in that season. But I have much higher regard and respect for Darren DeVries and his approach to coaching. And it's just so exciting because not only is the talent level on an uptick, it is not just a collection of talent. They got guys to fill spots and to fill needs. And even though, yes, basketball is basically positionless anymore, you still have to have a true point guard. You still have to have athletic snipers from the wing, and you still have to have a dominant big. And IU filled every single one of those needs.
Yeah, we obviously don't know how it's going to go. We've certainly won the off season in the past. I think over the last 10 years, with only a couple NCAA tournament appearances, I'd have to say that we would now be hanging banners for winning the off season. So we've seen this play out. But to your point, there's a big difference between, and people probably weren't very impressed with Darren DeVries his first year. But I'm not saying this because I know that I'm right. I think I am. But if you really know basketball, you saw a lot of things that were encouraging under Darren DeVries as it comes to in-game management and things like that. I think he ran a lot of good stuff. I just don't think they had the guys to get it done. And, that ultimately falls on him. He's the head coach.
They had a roster that would have run the MAC.
Well, I don't know. Akron and Miami of Ohio were pretty solid. But yeah, they, one thing that I like, and I'm taking from this, even if maybe a couple of the evaluations are wrong, he learned from his mistakes is what I'm seeing. Like, they're not going to have the on paper quality of shooters that they had last year. But remember this, Jason, Lamar Wilkerson didn't come in as some knockdown sniper 3-point shooter. Mm-mm. I mean, he was more of a 3-level scorer. He was a good shooter at Sam Houston State, but nobody ever described him as a microwave like we saw at Indiana. So, and the counterpoint of that, Tucker DeVries was like a 45% 3-point shooter at West Virginia, and we maybe only saw that 1 or 2 games. So, with Marcus Burton, he's originally from Indiana, played a couple years at Notre Dame, and he was averaging like 25 points a game for Notre Dame through 9 games, and then broke his foot. And that wasn't against St. Mary's Sisters of the Poor. They were playing Houston, and I think they played Kansas. So that's pretty encouraging, and a point guard that can go get his own, which was the problem for Indiana last year. And Aiden Sherrill is a sophomore, anywhere from 6'9" to 6'11", led the SEC in blocks last year. They also brought in a 7'2", 270-pound guy from Turkey.
It sounds like you're announcing a guy coming to the ring for WrestleMania tonight when you say that. Is he taking on the Big Show?
I think I'm just going to call him the Turkish Tower because I don't know how to pronounce his name. So, but I mean, it's I think DeVries learned from his mistakes and said, look, we weren't big enough. We couldn't protect the interior enough. And we didn't have a guy that could go get his own. I'm going to get more athletic and maybe sacrifice some of that pure shooting because that's what you need in the Big Ten. And don't forget, when do players, Jason, make their biggest jump?
Sophomore to junior.
It's not sophomore to junior. And you could even say, and I'm going to say it, freshman to sophomore. Like Trent Sicily was a top 40 kid last year. And so I like that. But to your point, the sophomore to junior, everybody that they got has at least 2 years of eligibility remaining. And so those guys, they're obviously not going to keep everybody from this roster and just add one player next year, right? They're going to lose a guy or two. But if you can keep, 5 to 6 guys that return year over year, add 2 to 3 freshmen, and then 2 to 3 transfer portal guys, I think that's what you need to do in this day's landscape, college basketball landscape. So I just kind of like how they've constructed the roster. I'm thinking they're going to get one more big and maybe one more shooter and then kind of a European project practice guy. So got to play the game on the court. But I think if Darren DeVries is a better coach than Mike Woodson and Mike Davis and Archie Miller, I think we'll be okay because this roster seemingly has a lot of talent.
Well, I'm not saying I disagree, and you and I have talked about this, and I get the point that you're trying to make, but I'm going to push back a little bit on the learning from mistakes because when you look at the situation that he came into, where he literally had to build an entire roster, Trent Sicily was the only name he knew that was going to be at IU when he got the job. And, there's two things that the transfer portal is about. It's about money, number one, unfortunately, because, we as traditionalists want it to be because, I love the school and I want to play there. It's about money, and it's about relationships. Well, he doesn't even have his entire staff in place when he's got to go out and start hitting the portal. Portal's open, all these different things. And so to get the guys that he got was, first of all, that was his life raft. He had to do it to stay afloat. But, when you look at the quality of guys he got, those are all guys that if you would take any of them and put them with this collection of talent they have this year, you're going to see a totally different player. Because when you look at what they had to put on the floor last year, every single guy, and especially like Tucker DeVries, to your point, he was a 45% shooter coming out of West Virginia. He was asked to do so much more last year than he has ever had to do that I don't know that he was physically able to keep up with the pace because, he's playing anywhere from 36 to 40 minutes a game. He's having to rebound. He's having to bring it up. He's having to pass it. He's having to score it and do all these things instead of just staying in that lane of here's your strength, be a shooter. And I just think that they were behind the 8 ball in putting that roster together. And, we are still yearning for days gone by and the success at IU. But you have to look at the job that he did with that roster. They had one less win than an Elite 8 Iowa Hawkeyes team. And now all of a sudden, just because Iowa makes this run in the tournament, I I just lost his name. What coach at Iowa now that they got?
McCollum.
Yeah,
Ben McCollum.
Ben McCollum. It is suddenly the second coming of John Wooden, and Darren DeVries doesn't know his backside from third base. It makes no sense to me, because have you heard of any guys that from the – now, again, it's headlines, and it doesn't matter because it's all on paper now. Have you heard of one name that's going to Iowa?
No.
Anybody? Currently, they have 2 players on their roster.
Oh, okay. So, and I'm not saying that Ben McCollum can't coach, because I actually think he's really good. But it's just funny how you take a snapshot in one instance and people make judgments based solely on that. Like, give it time, let it breathe. Now, if we're sitting here having this same conversation in 2 more years, we're in another bad spot again, and Darren DeVries is on the hottest seat of all time and things like that. But, you know, kind of like what you said, because they've got 2 years of eligibility left, and he brought in 2 of the 3 are top 60 recruits. One is a top 30 recruit, and none of the 3 are outside the top 80. So he found 3 guys that are going to fit his system, hopefully, even though in today's day and age of NIL and transfer portal, you never know if you can get guys to stick around and develop. But guys that you hope are around, and we see through. The roster is getting built the right way now. It's not a Mike Woodson approach. Let me go out and just get as many stars. And by stars, I don't mean their level of talent, but, 5 stars as I can get, just so that I'll win the headline Olympics. Like we said, he's filled needs. They've gotten more athletic. They've got shooters. They've got defenders. Like, I really like the direction that he's got his roster headed. And, the funny thing is, leading up to it, because, again, traditionalists that we are, we want to think that all these guys chose IU because, it's IU and the candy stripes and the banners and yada, yada, yada. We know exactly why these guys chose IU, because they were the highest bidders. And, going into it, again, our buddy Rabbi on Pigs.com, no free ads, he kept saying, well, I don't know. It's going to be somewhere between 10 to 12 million. If they can get to 14, ain't no way that roster they just got was less than $14 million. There's no way. And guess who's 1,000% okay with that? Me. Show them the money. If it's going to mean wins for IU, I'm tired of playing nice. I'm tired of doing all this. So throw the bag at each and every one of them. I don't care. We need sustained basketball success in Bloomington.
Well, since we're on the NIL talk, I don't see Dodgers fans complaining when they spend a bunch of money and field a great roster. Like they're not complaining about it. So it's just something as a Reds fan and Pacers fans, and even sometimes Cubs fan, even though the Cubs spend money, but not
like they could.
Right, not like they could. We have to get used to that. So it's funny because the biggest misconception about Cignetti is that they're just paying all these high-priced players and they bought a championship. When we as Indiana fans know that that's not true, but that's just because they have nothing on Cignetti. They have to say that, right? Well, if we have to buy a championship in basketball, I don't care. Also, guess what? If we have to buy one in football, I don't care, because you know what? I've got 7 shirts and sweatshirts in my closet that states that I don't care that we won a national championship in football. And I'll keep wearing those. And, I think next year all I have to do is just buy a piece of tape and tape over and write and 2017. So
you mean 27, not 17.
Or 27.
You getting your DeLorean there, Josh? Did you hit 88 miles an hour or what?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's you don't know until they play. But I do like the strategy that they've gone about it. And there's a kid that they got. This is just how kind of crazy the portal is. Bryce Lindsey from Villanova. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, he was about 24 to 36 hours away from signing with USC in the transfer portal. This is a kid that shot around 40% from three in his career. He's just going to be a junior, and he's taken over 400 threes. So he's a volume shooter and shot a good percentage. But he was going to USC with about 36 hours until he was going to commit. Excuse me. And then he got a call from Kenny Johnson, IU assistant, said, sure, I would be interested in hearing. They told him what his role was going to be. They told him how they wanted to use him. He said, sure, send me some clips. They sent him some clips. They had a couple conversations, I'm assuming about role and, well, the bag getting thrown at him. And he flipped didn't flip it, but he ended up committing to IU kind of out of nowhere. And that's just how crazy the portal is at this point in time. If you have the money, you can get in the room with the conversation. And then after that, most of the guys aren't going to go for an extra couple $100,000 if they're saying, well, you're sitting on the bench. You still have to win the recruitment, but the money will get you in the door and keep you there until the end. But, you got to show what kind of role and how you envision them and who they're playing with. So you have to give those guys credit for the transfer portal class that they pulled. But look, I don't think this is just a one-year transfer portal class either. I think if we can get to the tournament and be a 5 or 6 seed, I think the following year is where you could really see them make a run.
And when you look at it, you can never say never, and 0 guys will leave in all of this. But if the guys they brought in are as good as we think they can be, and they produce at the level that we think that they can, and then Sicily and the 3 freshmen take yet another leap after this coming season, they'll be juniors and sophomores. You got to think that most of them will stick around because, especially the guys they brought in, they're not going to give them less NIL than what they came there for. I don't think it works that way.
I don't think so.
And so, another school is going to have to outbid them to get these guys away. And so you'd like to think you're going to have some of that sustained roster continuity, like we see at a Purdue and places like that. And really, this we would have to do a much deeper dive on it, but I can't imagine there's 5 other programs, Power 4 that is, that there's 5 other programs in the nation that have more roster continuity year over year than Purdue does. It's amazing how they are able to get their guys and keep their guys. And, that's where we want to get IU back to. And, Josh, we can't go a week without poking little brother just for fun. So we already know the score is 5-0 in basketball, right, as far as championships go.
Yep.
From a university perspective, do you know how many championships IU has compared to Purdue?
I do think it's like 39-3 or something.
Thanks for playing,
Am I
little
close?
brother. So,
am I close? Is it something like that?
Yes. Purdue and their 3, they have a women's national title, probably a GOAT judging title.
They have a women's basketball, women's golf.
Hey, get it. But hey,
So-
they did put a man on the moon, so we'll give them that.
They did.
So
did.
congratulations, but that doesn't help you make more baskets or score more touchdowns. So sorry, little brother. Keep being cute and winning all those Big Ten championships and then doing nothing when it counts.
It'll be interesting to see what Purdue does next year. I mean, look, I know that it could be knocked, but they're losing probably the best class of seniors that they've ever had, right? I mean, they have.
They won more games than any other senior.
They won more games. They won more Big Ten championships. They set records. I mean, Braden Smith, the all-time assist record. Fletcher Loyer, the three-point record. I mean, Trey Coughlin-Wren was, a fantastic player. But I'm sure they have a solid recruiting class. The guys that Indiana are looking at, the 40-80 or 40-90 ranked guys. I know they have Indiana Mr. Basketball Luke Ertl, which I haven't watched him play, but he put up ridiculous stats at Greenfield.
I don't.
Or not,
No,
not
he was
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon. I only saw him play twice. I saw him in regional this year and in the state finals. Not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind having that kid in Cream and Crimson. Baby, that kid can play.
The problem with that is and I'm not. This isn't a knock whatsoever on either one of these guys. Braden Smith was so successful as a freshman and was able to learn on the job because when he got in trouble, he could throw it up to the 2-time National Player of the Year in Zach Edey, right? I mean, that's how he could get out of trouble. I don't think that Luke Ertl, probably coming in to be the starter, and I know a lot of Purdue fans are hoping that he has that same trajectory as Braden Smith had, but Luke Ertl doesn't have that get-out-of-jail-free John Wooden National Player of the Year guy in Zach Edey. So it may be a little bit – there's no doubt in my mind that Luke Ertl is going to be a good player, right? He was an insanely good player at an insanely good high school at the 4A level. Like there's no reason to think that he's not going to have a very successful career at Purdue. It just may take a little bit longer than it did for Braden Smith. Trent Sicily was Montverde, the best prep school in the country. He was their MVP last year. He was a top 40 recruit from Indiana, and he could barely see the floor on a team that didn't make the NCAA tournament. So I'm just saying, with expectations, it's a little bit hard to make me think that Luke Ertl is going to come in right away, be Purdue's point guard, and be as successful as Braden Smith.
Well, that's such an incredibly high bar that was set by him. And to your point, like, you got to remember his first 2 years, what was the knock on Braden Smith? When it got to crunch time and plays had to be made, he couldn't make the plays when it mattered, when he was young. But was still incredibly successful, obviously was in talks of, he was in the National Player of the Year talks at the beginning of this season and things. So, he ended up having a much, much, much better career than I ever expected him to have. And, I think if Purdue fans are being honest, there's no way they would have called what his career ended up being. But, I think Ertl will have your normal freshman struggles. Painter does such a good job of helping them. Like, it's not like he'll struggle and Painter's going to pull him and punish him by sticking him on the end of the bench. He knows that you got to stick with the guys and see them through their struggles and let them learn, kind of like on-the-job training. And so, Ertl is a bigger – and he's left-handed too, but he's a bigger version of Braden Smith. And so, physically he's going to come in with a few more advantages than Smith had as a freshman. But, I can see him having a very, very nice career for Purdue. The 2 times I saw him live, I was absolutely blown away because you had him, who obviously, Mr. Basketball, best player, all these things. He had another junior, Max Vise, with him, who is a junior all-star, and then past that, they played a total of 4 other guys, and I don't know that they would be the leading scorer on many EIAC school rosters. They were just pieces, is all that they were. And so it tells you how good Ertl was, that he put that team on his back and took them all the way through the tournament and ended up eventually winning a state championship.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind with the guys that Purdue had, the guys that played. Wow. Okay.
Wonder who she gets that from.
Wow. Okay. But there's no doubt in my mind that Mayer, the kid that came in and played pretty good minutes for Purdue, obviously, the guy's drawing a blank, but I thought he was a good player. The guy that started for him was a good 3-point shooter. I'm drawing a blank.
It's a Purdue guy. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
But they do have some talent coming back, but there's times when you have guys, and we've seen this at IU as well, where you have stars around you. You can be a really good role player and seemingly look like you're going to be the next one to fill that void. But when you're Omar Mayer, you don't have Braden Smith or Fletcher Loyer or Trey Kaufman-Renner or Clough to fall back on. And when you're the guy, leadership can change quickly, and And if you're not ready to step in that role, but you're asked to be step in that role, it can be a daunting task. And we've seen that a lot at IU. That's the only reason that we know that, where you're like, hey, I think this guy's pretty solid. The one guy that comes to mind for me, Jason, is like Will Sheehy. Mm-hmm. How good was Will Sheehy when he was the fifth guy with Oladipo and Zeller and Yogi and those guys? He was great.
Yep.
And then that next year, you're like, okay, well, it's Will Sheehy and Noah Vonleh, and it wasn't great. So it's a big ask when you become the main guy as opposed to the fifth guy.
And it's a lot like when you look at being an assistant coach and then moving just one seat over, and you become the head coach. It's the same thing when your name as a player moves up the scouting report and the roster around you changes and you don't have that safety net. It's not like these guys suddenly forget how to play basketball, but they are now the focal point of the defense. And, maybe that talent around them isn't to the level that they had played with when they were just that role player. And, when you look at it on a basketball roster, let's say, they keep telling us that IU wants to stay at 13. They don't want to get above 13 scholarships because you can go up to 15, but if you get above 13, it triggers something in the profit sharing, revenue sharing, things like that. And of course, they don't want to lose any sort of money at all. But let's say you've got a roster of 13, all but maybe two, probably. All but two guys are role players. They have a role that they need to play. And then you'll have two or three outliers who are your Swiss Army knives that literally do everything, and they're counted on to be your leading scorer and assists and rebounds and all that stuff. But, if you are one of those role players, and great analogy bringing up Will Sheehy, it's not like Sheehy suddenly forgot how to play, but he couldn't just go out there and fly around like he did when he had Jordan Hulls at the point, and he had Cody Zeller inside, and he had Christian Watford, and he had Verdell Jones, and he had Victor Oladipo, and you keep naming all these guys off, and he is at best in a situation like that fourth on the opposing team's scouting report. If we've got to give something up, we're not going to give it up to Cody Zeller inside. We're not going to give it up at the three-point line to Jordan Hulls. They're going to give it up to Will Sheehy. Well, then that next year, when it goes to we have to stop Will Sheehy and we have to stop Noah Vonleh, give it up to those other three guys. Well, now that defense is shifted and tilted and they rotate in different ways to Sheehy. And it's not like he got worse. Things just got a lot more difficult. And as I'm even saying that, it puts you in mind of Tucker DeVries this year. Not only was he asked to do so much more, going into any given game, he was at worst on the 2 line of the other team's scouting report. And so it's not like Tucker DeVries suddenly forgot how to play. It just got a lot harder for him.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys can make that jump, and some can. And yeah, it's not. Will Sheehy was still a good player, right? But he averaged about the same on less efficiency because he was the guy that you had to focus on. And some guys are ready to do that. Some guys aren't. So look, we know what Purdue's going to be, right? They're going to still be solid. They're probably still going to be a 5 or 6 seed, 4th or 5th in the Big Ten. That's what they're going to be. But you have to see if those guys are ready to take that next step.
I don't know why I'd never thought about this before. You know what Purdue has become? They have become Wisconsin football under Barry Alvarez or Iowa football with Kirk Ferentz. Never good enough to be the best, but always in the conversation for a conference title. Every once in a great while, Barry Alvarez would get Wisconsin to the Rose Bowl. And that's, every once in a great while. It happened once for Purdue. They got to the Final Four. But that's what they've become. They're a model of consistency, but they can't take that next step. Now, some of that is because they don't have Indiana Jesus like Curt Cignetti, and he can come in and just right the ship and win national titles because, he wins. Google him. I can never get enough of saying that. It's just so much fun.
That's pretty. I do love that.
I mean, I don't know in the history of flexes, has there ever been a bigger flex that was 1,000,000% true? I don't know if there is.
I don't know that there is.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows. You know, you can. I was at a show this week, and actually the Cheese Expo. This will make your head spin. I know this is off topic, but there's a company that we do some business with. We bought their cheese at this cheese auction. Jason, we bought 40 pounds of pepper jack cheese.
Good Lord, what will you do with 40 pounds of cheese?
Divvy it up and give it to the people that work, work for us.
Okay.
We paid $800 a pound.
What?
The cheese auction. Yeah. So anyway,
okay.
when we were around, and you know, I'm talking sports with guys or whatever, and you know, these guys aren't from Indiana. They don't know, but they do know Curt Cignetti, and they know Curt Cignetti because they said, "Oh yeah, I loved when he was like, I win, Google me." You know, so it's just it was an awesome move that he said, and an awesome thing. It's sticking around forever. So.
And you know the best part about it, because it never gets old talking about it, we still get to bask in the glow of being football national champions for like 4 or 5 more months. We don't have to stop talking about it until September. How amazing is that?
And if you look at IU's schedule, and us being and I'll do this because it's WrestleMania weekend, the reigning, defending, undisputed heavyweight champions of college football, we're going to be starting off the season about 6 or 7-0 at least. So we've got until about mid-October before we have to really worry about our chances.
It is the second, so the end of our fall break, because we're actually changing our flight. We're coming back on Friday instead of Saturday, because the end of our fall break that Saturday is Ohio State at home.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't miss that either. That's the reason you have IU football tickets.
That's exactly right. And you've got to think that game day will be there. Big noon kickoff will be there. I mean, it should be the NBC night game, but Fox is obviously going to, because don't they get first dibs? I think it is their agreement with the Big Ten. So they're obviously it'll be a noon kickoff, which I'm upset about because that just takes away from tailgating time. But I digress. So, you know, when you look at it, and you do it more than entertainment, you actually do put some cheddar in the betting world. Doesn't IU aren't they like top 4 betting odds for national championship again this year?
They are. I was going to ask you. I haven't looked, but I know at one time Notre Dame was they had the highest odds of making the college football playoffs, and Indiana had the second best odds. Sorry, they best odds. But I'm not around my computer when I usually am, but just look at Notre Dame's schedule. It's an embarrassment. Like, you think the first couple games for IU is embarrassing. Just look at Notre Dame's schedule. I know they play Purdue, they play Michigan State, they play. It's just, I saw it the other day, and it was. I don't know. Anybody, either one of you, be able to pull that up?
I'm looking for it right now, actually, if I can find it. But you know, the thing is, and not that college sports can't change on a dime their scheduling, but you know, historically, Notre Dame, Wisconsin's good. Well, they haven't been great. That's right. So Notre Dame starts out against Wisconsin, then they have Rice. Well, historically, Notre Dame, Michigan State has been a huge rivalry. Like, Michigan State's been good. They haven't been. That's their next game. Purdue, we get it. They're terrible now. But they haven't always been bad. Then look out. Could this be the year? Bill Belichick, they play North Carolina, then Stanford, then BYU, then Navy, then Miami, Boston College, SMU, Syracuse. So you have
one,
that
maybe two games.
maybe.
Miami and potentially SMU, right?
And I mean BYU
SMU's
hasn't been bad,
solid.
have they?
Yeah. No, they've been solid. And
But
they've got
I mean,
NIL money supposedly, but
I thought that only went to basketball out there. But
maybe it does.
but I think, and again, I'll let you do the betting since I don't do it. To me, the easiest money that you're going to make, and it won't be a lot of money because I'm sure it's not great odds for you to make money, but go ahead and put everything you're comfortable putting on it that IU, Ohio State, and Notre Dame will all three be in the college football playoff this year. I think that is the easiest money that you're going to make.
I mean, I would agree. I think Tom would be the only one that maybe disagrees about Ohio State, because hasn't he said that they were going to lose 3 games this year? I thought I heard him say that at one time, but
I need to look at their schedule actually.
They
but
face
also
I think it's IU, Oregon, and USC back to back to back. I think
That would probably
USC has better odds than Ohio State.
Let's see. Ohio State. Here's their schedule. Look out. The Fighting Cardinals of Ball State.
Oh,
chirp,
yeah.
chirp. Then
Chirp,
they go
chirp.
to Texas.
That's not easy.
Saucy. Then they host Kent State. Then they host Illinois. Illinois was supposed to be
Nah, they're not
team
losing
to
at
beat
home.
last year.
Yeah.
Then they go to Iowa. Then they host Maryland. Then they go to IU, to USC, and host Oregon.
Oh my God.
And then host Northwestern, go to Nebraska, and then they host Michigan in the rivalry game.
Holy crap.
And, this is not your Sharon Moore Wolverines anymore.
no.
Oh, shoot, I lost his name from Utah.
Kyle Whittingham.
Oh, yeah, Kyle Whittingham, who I think, we always
coach.
gave him kudos when he was at Utah, and now he goes somewhere like Michigan that has, they have all of the money that you're going to need to throw at building a successful program and roster and things. So, it's crazy because we're right in that sweet spot of sports where if you are a sports fan, there's a ton going on, but it's that slow drip to the end where we go for about a month and a half, 2 months, and quite literally the only thing to focus on is baseball and an occasional golf major. Other than that, like we're on the downward trend towards that. But even though, the first games aren't until September, it feels like football is right around the corner, and I can't wait for it.
It does. I don't know what. It's probably just because we're so excited for the hoot. Do you remember, how did we feel last year, Jason, going into the season? Like, let's just make the playoffs again? I kind of forget how we felt because it just, I don't know, it was kind of a blur. That, from basically Ohio State on, was a blur. Like,
if I remember correctly, I think the conversation was the jump needed to be, don't just make the playoff, but try to host a game. Like we wanted to be, 5, 6, 7, or 8 seed so that they could host a first-round game. And I think it was host a game, win that home game so that you can say you won a playoff game. We were going to take that and run for the hills because that was going to be a huge success. We in no way, obviously, national championship was nowhere even near our thoughts, but it was maybe compete. But we saw that game at Oregon, we saw the game at Penn State, and we're like, we were convinced it was going to be 2 losses, and then as the year starts to go on, it was. They started and they won fairly. The final score was not indicative of how they dominated their first game because 3 times I think they got stopped inside the 5-yard line, didn't score.
And they gave up 2 75-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh, man, you kind of were like, and this was – it's got to be what it's like to be a Purdue basketball fan. If something's going to go wrong, we'll find a way for it to go wrong. That's what it felt like. It's like, okay, well, last year was fun, but was that just lightning in a bottle? This can't be it can't be replicated. And then it was like that game did something to them, and you started to see they get on a roll. And then when you really opened your eyes was the absolute demolishing, and that's probably the nicest way you can put it, when Illinois came into town for the 8 o'clock NBC kickoff. I have never seen, I don't think, nope, I did see it in basketball one time, but very rarely do you see a team that's at that level quit. And Illinois had no answer, and they quit because IU, man, you want to talk about a team that got, metaphorically got them down and stepped on their throat and just kept stepping no matter how much they begged for them to stop. That was absolute domination. And you started to look like, oh, okay, this could be different. But then, you had to start being a bigger believer when they go to Iowa, bowl team this year, incredibly difficult place to play. They can't really ever get going and get over that hump. It's not like they were never too far ahead, too far behind, but you're like, man, this just doesn't feel good. And then you had Mendoza to Elijah Surratt magic, just a simple slant route, but they said, that was a read by the two of them, and you're like, oh man, pulled that one off. Then they go in, and I know the final score was closer, and you had the Mendoza pick six, but we all started to be like, this is something different, like even more so than the Illinois game, because I don't know how much we were believers in Illinois. I think we talked about it on the show, before that game even. But you go out to Oregon, and I think we just talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. Dan Lanning's lost, 2 games ever at Oregon, like when they host, and one of them is now to IU. And that's when you were like, this is different. This is going to be something special. Obviously, still, even at that point, we're like, the national title, that's not happening. Like, you didn't even start to think about, well, could that be a possibility? And then, with the magic that happens, because plays like they made at Penn State, when you're already winning the way that they were winning, that's when you get really clued into, man, this is going to be this has an opportunity to be something incredibly special. And then you get to the Big Ten championship game, and Mendoza got knocked back probably about 3 months, and comes back in, sits out a play, comes back in, and you're like, oh man, this kid's just different. And, made unbelievable throws, and they did what I think even you and I thought, I hate to use impossible, but I didn't know that it was possible that they could not only win a Big Ten title, but to do it against Ohio State. And then, after that, it was off to the races, because the only thing that you could say about their 2 playoff games before the national championship game was it was Illinois level beatdown. I mean, just pedal to the metal, no mercy whatsoever. You kind of felt like this Cobra Kai, sweep the leg, no mercy. and they just, it was a perfect championship, not only because 16-0, but they showed in modern day sports, yes, there were guys making good money, but they showed what happens when you have a team that is connected and doing it for the right reasons, and they're in it for each other, and they're playing the right way, and when they're coached hard but put in situations to be dominant, they did that. And so I'm not going to go, even with my crimson-colored glasses, I'm not going to go as far as to say they are the best college football team of all time. But I would be willing to entertain an argument with anybody that team last year belongs in a conversation for at least top 5 teams of all time. Yes, I said it.
Yeah. No, I've said it. I'm 100% in agreement there. I think they might even be better than just top 5. And I know you kind of said the same thing, but and I know we got to go to break here, but it was just a blur. It was crazy. I never expected it. but now, and the year before, it was just caught us all off guard. And even last year, you know, you were sitting there like going into the season, okay, we want them to host a game, but are they really good? Like, or was this just kind of lucky?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, like you said, you laid it out perfectly. You just go into the season, and those games happen. And I don't know, and we can talk about it when we come back from break. But my expectation, my hope is that they win a championship. But and I'll be frustrated if they don't. But I guess I'm just hoping for like a semifinal appearance at this point. So
yeah, we'll get into what this year will look like when we come back from break. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillen Howe Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy-Rite Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite from Cheese Country. And apparently, did you say, was it Pepper Jack?
40 pounds of pepper jack cheese.
Look at
There were 40. I mean, this was like a legitimate auction, auctioneers and everything. It's actually pretty interesting. There was like 40 different companies that submitted, and there's some good cheese there. But I don't think any 40-pound block of cheese is worth $32,000. So.
No, I think you're probably right. All right, well, Josh, we're going to give you an opportunity here to take us down our next path. What do you got?
Well, let's see. I mean, we could talk about the Masters, but once you get like a week away from what happened in the golf world, they're already playing this week. Like, it's a signature event, so all the big guys are playing. So, I mean, it was great of Rory McIlroy to win it. I thought he was out after he three-putted, I think, on number 5. He got down 3 shots and then just played an incredible back 9. Everybody else kind of folded around him. And Scotty kind of made a charge, but he also had 13 straight pars. I wish in golf, and I know definitely CBS and NBC wish, I wish we could just get like a Scotty and Rory showdown on a Sunday at a major, but it's just so rare how often that happens. I mean, I know they finished 1 and 2, but they didn't play together all week. Scotty was never really up there until Sunday, and we never really saw Tiger and Phil go at it, right? And it's just golf is so random and it's so hard that you often don't get the really made for TV matchups. But still an incredible Masters. It's the course, so it doesn't really matter who's up there. You're going to watch it, like you said last week. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we want to talk about the NBA playoffs, do we?
Well, just a quick point on the Masters. I know this is hyperbole and it's just a guess, but to me, if Rory hadn't won last year when he 3-jacks that the putt and goes down 3 shots, if this is last year, he ends up probably tied for 40th or something. He falls off the lead. But the amazing thing was, and this started on Thursday, you could literally see how carefree and laid back and stress-free he was over all 4 days. That the weight of the world had been lifted off of his shoulders. He felt no pressure because he'd already done it. And of course, anytime I don't care if it's the Masters or your local pro-am. If you're a competitor, you want to win every time that you go into a competition. But man, he was just so loose and laid back and was not going to let anything affect him. And it was an incredibly impressive performance by him.
Yeah, and I think Brandon Money. I know you don't, Ryan, but my buddy Brandon, we had a text stream, obviously, and we were talking about golf, and we were both watching Rory and Cam Young. They were in the featured groups. I think they even played together the first 2 rounds, or they were at least on the same featured group on ESPN app, right? But Cam Young shot a 40 on his first 9. Which kind of brought back the Tiger Woods, his first Masters. He shot a 40 on the front, a 30 on the back, so he turned it around, obviously, and then won by about 12 shots. But so Cam Young, in this, I snapshotted this and sent it to Brandon on Sunday. It was, the first text message was, Cam Young, wow, that's not good, and he's done. And then the next one was like, I think Rory had missed a green, and we were sitting there, and kind of to your point, we were like, he's so carefree that, man, I got like a zoo at my house today. He's so carefree that I just don't. We both said we just don't think he cares as much this year. two freezing cold takes, back-to-back text messages. I sent it on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, this is why we don't do this for a living. but
they did not age well.
That did not age well at all. But yeah, I was, I had Cam Young. I had a little bit of money on him, so I was hoping for that. But I know Rory gets a lot of heat from fans, and sometimes he seems a little stuffy, but and kind of like the Aaron Rodgers, not to that level, but like Aaron Rodgers, like, I went to Cal, I'm the smartest guy in the world. Rory just kind of, and I find his press conferences awesome, and they're incredibly insightful. But kind of transitioning off of that, it looks like the PGA Tour, and we knew this was going to happen, but it looks like the PGA Tour is going to get the last laugh as LIV is they're going to stop funding LIV Golf after this season, and it's not going to be a thing anymore.
Big shock to no one.
Absolutely no one. So it's going to be interesting to see how the PGA rolls those guys back into it. Obviously, it's going to be easier for Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau, but outside of Tyrrell Hatton, and even then, like, only big golf fans know him. Do you really care if anybody else comes back?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, nobody cares if Dustin Johnson comes back. He doesn't even care. I mean, he made his $500 million and married to Paulina Gretzky and has a couple kids. Like, he doesn't care anymore.
And we're talking about a guy who was dominant. 5 years back, Dustin Johnson was the greatest golfer on the planet. He was unbelievable. Yeah.
So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how those guys get re-ingrained to the PGA Tour, but that's a next year thing. But it is crazy, and I think the LIV guys are starting to see it, like, because the whole world basically knows that it's just a glorified exhibition. Like, nobody cares about LIV golf tournaments. I think they're fun to go to. But
what do you think Phil's going to do?
I think that Phil's pretty much exercised from the PGA. You didn't come out and have Jon Rahm and Bryson and those guys trash the PGA, but Phil and like Greg Norman, obviously, and his playing days are done. But I think those guys are pretty much out of it now. Obviously, the Masters is something separate. So Phil, a lifetime exemption in the Masters.
Why did he not play this year? Do you know? Is he hurt?
I don't know if it was an injury or what. They kind of they kept that pretty quiet.
Yeah,
I think
his name was not spoken.
No, not at all. And he has he's a British Open champion, so he has a lifetime exemption there. So he'll play in those two. But this conversation got brought up on a podcast I was listening to. They had the ceremonial first tee shots for the Masters, and right now it's Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Tom Watson. They were wondering, like, who would be the next guys to do that, and when would that happen? Obviously, if Tiger does come back, and you have to think that Tiger's eventually going to play in at least a couple more Masters. And Phil's going to play in Masters.
I think I've got an answer to this. Go ahead.
But those guys are obviously going to do it at some point in time, right? And the question wasn't like who's going to do it in 10 years. It was 25. But who do you think the next guys are to join Tom Watson when Gary Player's going to live till he's like 126 probably?
I think Freddie Couples, Nick Faldo, and Tiger.
A great one. Yep. I think, and hopefully Tom Watson does it until he's, Jack's age, 86, 87, 88. So he would still have about 15 to 20 more years of doing that. But I think the very next one in is going to be Nick Faldo, and whoever hopefully Jack and Gary Player live a lot longer and continue to do it. But Nick Faldo is a great one, and Fred Couples is a great one as well. I mean, I think he's played in more Masters than anyone. He has the Masters made cut streak. I think he's still, if he doesn't have it, him and Tiger are tied.
He's had back issues for, last 20 years. Did he not play this year because of that? I'm assuming he had.
No, he did play.
Did he? I didn't realize that.
it was pretty cool because he was 2 under in the first round going into 15, I think, and then I think he ended up on the day with 4 holes remaining. I think he shot like 8 over.
Ooh.
He got like a 10 and then a 7 or something on 16. But, most guys would just be upset and not want to talk about it. Freddie talked about it to a reporter in detail, like what happened and the course. And it was just kind of cool to see somebody, even though they struggled, do that. Freddie's he's a legend, right? And he's just cool. His golf swing is perfect. It's, those are, I didn't think about Fred Couples. That's a good one, Jason.
Thank you. Good pull from me. Oh, just threw my shoulder out, patting myself on the back for that one.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily have to get into the playoffs as a whole, but this one's right up your alley because you're such a big fan of his. Golden State got beat last night in what's, basically the play-in game, like the NCAA tournament. Phoenix knocked them out. And, Steve Kerr was asked about his future because he's got an expiring contract. And it was almost like he was trying to give himself a way out. He said, I know these jobs have an expiration date and things. So because you love Steve Kerr so much, what are your thoughts on his possible coaching future or lack thereof?
I think so I'll say this. As much as I disagree and don't like how Steve Kerr has handled a lot of the issues for the NBA and political issues, world issues, that's created by Adam Silver. Adam Silver allows that to happen. So those guys, kind of sit on their pedestal and talk, and they're allowed to do that. They're free to do that. But as far as just being a coach, look, Steve Kerr should do it and coach with the Warriors as long as Steve Kerr wants to. And if Steve Kerr wants to take a role in maybe just USA basketball, because he's coached them at the Olympics, he deserves that right. He's one of the all-time great NBA coaches. And I think he deserves that. I don't know what his future holds at Golden State. But I think he should be able to do as long as he can and wants to. Where are you and Ryan at on that?
Yeah, I'm with you, Josh. He should coach there as long as he wants to. But to Jason's point, watching that, it did seem like he was trying to give himself a way out. And it reminded me a lot of when certain things are going to happen. Because at the end of the game, Kerr, Green, and Curry all gave a hug to each other. It reminded me of when the Cubs all got traded away. It's something that you do when you might know that the end is near, whether that's in a couple months or that's next year. But it does seem like if it's not just Kerr, it could be Green too going away.
Well, and when you look at that, you look at their roster. I mean, Steph Curry, this blows my mind because I still vividly remember watching him at Davidson. Steph Curry just turned 38 years old last month. It is so amazing to think he's been in the NBA for that long. And as much as we love to hate him, we are so close to a world where Steph Curry and LeBron James are not playing basketball anymore. That is so wild to me. Because, every generation is going to have their stars, and there's going to be great players, but not every generation is going to have generational talent. I was fortunate enough that I grew up in a time where I had the greatest of all time. I had 2 more that are among the top 10 of all time. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. And then throw in Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, is Charles Barkley just on his playing career alone, is he a top 20 player of all time? You could probably argue for it, at least not saying that he is.
Akeem Olajuwon.
Akeem Olajuwon and Tim Duncan. And then it transitions into Allen Iverson and Shaq and Kobe. Like generational type talents. Then you get away from that, and you had great players. You had Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter and guys that were really, really good and fun to watch, but they weren't generational players. And now we're in the era of Steph and LeBron, generational players, top 5 to top 10 players in the history of the game. But then what's next? Mm-hmm. I mean, SGA is phenomenal, but we can't say at this point he's a generational talent. Anthony Edwards, phenomenal player. Is he generational? I don't know. Wemby, he's on a path to it, but he's not yet. Really, to me, the next guy that you would say it about, and nobody ever talks about him, part of it is because of where he plays, but then part of it is because he literally just plays and then you never hear from him, would be Jokic. Like, he's the most unassuming superstar maybe ever. So you've got him, but even he's what, probably 33, 34? Does that sound about right? So, and a bigger guy, big-bodied and things. So he's getting towards the tail end of his career. So it's going to be an interesting time in the NBA when you lose guys like that. Because, again, there are guys who are on the path towards maybe being considered that, but you don't have anybody right now that is that you look at and go, man, we got to start talking about them and where they land in the history of the game and in all-time greatness.
And it's to me, like, Jokic is a generational player, and you could argue somewhat like a Dirk Nowitzki, right? European guy, but Jokic has kind of changed the archetype of a player, right? There are bigger guys that have that skill set, and he's a guy when you're looking at players and you're talking about players and things like that, you're like, he's got a lot of Jokic in his game, and there's not a lot of people that you say that about. He is one of those guys that for the next 15 or 20 years, you're going to say, well, he's got the body type and the athleticism and the skill set of Jokic. And to see what Jokic has been able to do with his limited athleticism, and it's incredible. And so I would put him in that, Jason. I would put him in that generational type player.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's more, and I'm going to use this analogy, seeing as it's WrestleMania weekend. You had a lull and really in WWE after like The Rock and Stone Cold, and then you had John Cena come in and do that, and you had guys, but the WWE wasn't creating stars. The NBA, and it's somebody needs to do a case study, and they will at some point in time. Like, how did we go from producing generational players like Jordan, like Kobe, like LeBron, to just really good players? And I think SGA would be in that conversation, but his game is so polarizing, and how they officiate him, he's not fun to root for. And it's not a fun style that you watch him play. Wemby's great, but again, he's in San Antonio. He's not an outspoken guy. It's just, those are the things that, does he want to take that next step? Can he take that next step? So there are really good players. And you mentioned them, Anthony Edwards, fantastic player, but the NBA has really struggled creating that next generation of superstars. And maybe it takes LeBron James finally leaving the NBA and Steph Curry finally leaving the NBA for that to happen. But it's not looking promising for those generational type players that can take over your league and elevate your league from a rating standpoint, from a viewership standpoint, and for kids to continue to want to be those guys. I'm not. Do kids want to aspire to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? I don't see it. But
to me, the next guy, and he's only a rookie, but the next guy that you would look at that could possibly get there based on his fanfare coming in and then the rookie season that he had would be Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Only 1 year under his belt, but I mean, how many 40-point games as a rookie did he have? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think is he the only rookie maybe to have two 50-point games or something like that?
yeah,
I mean,
something crazy. And, this brings me to another topic that's NBA related. Because a guy that you would think about possibly would be Luka, but his lack of defense kind of takes away from that because I don't think he could guard any of the three of us.
No.
But, I have no problem at all. And the talking heads were losing their minds when the NBA put in the rule. Is it 65 games you have to play in so you can be all NBA and get awards and things like that? Well, Luka he's petitioning, or he's trying to get the NBA to forgive the 2 games that he missed because he said, well, I went home for the birth of my child. And the NBA should be cool, love it. How about we talk about the game you had to miss because of how many technical fouls you got? If you don't miss that game, guess what? You're at the limit. And so they should get that paper. Now, they won't because it's Adam Silver. They should get that paperwork, invite him in for a meeting, and as he walks through the door, just put it in the shredder and go, that's what we think about it right there. I mean, you put yourself in a position where you had to miss a game because you got so many technical fouls because you're such a whiny little baby. And, to me, that should automatically, I don't care. I am all for him missing games to go be with his wife for the birth of their child. Nothing whatsoever wrong with that. But, dude, you put yourself in the bad situation by being such a poor sport and a crybaby, whiny backside that you deserve to not hit that 65-game threshold because you got suspended a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but yeah, the NBA has no spine to do that, I'm sure. And they want to promote Luka, and they want to say that he was on the All-NBA team, and they need that. They want that. But yeah, you make a great point. Like, don't get 15 technicals in a season or whatever it is.
And think about the Pandora's box you open if you do give him that leeway. Because what's the next guy going to come? Well, I missed because of this. I missed because of this. Like, you can never put the toothpaste back in the tube if you allow this appeal to go through. It would be impossible. Or what's going to happen is you're going to have that one guy who's been a lifetime journeyman and then out of nowhere has his career year, but yet because he's not an all-star or things like that, they'll say, nah, and he won't get his appeal to go through, but these big-name guys will, and that, it would be very Adam Silver in the NBA to do that, but, man, you are treading on a slippery slope if you let this one by.
And you could also get in a situation where, and I know he came back a little bit too late, but you get a situation where, like, Jason Tatum comes back and say he plays 40 games and he's averaging 32 points a game and 8 rebounds, and you're like, wow, over this last half of the season, he's been the best player in the NBA. Well, he only played half the year.
Yeah.
So that, but yeah, if you allow that to happen, that's where it's going to go. So, but that's been the biggest problem with the NBA over the last, well, really since, Kobe retired and it was kind of LeBron's league. You've let the players run the league, and letting players run the league is never a good idea. That's why you have the strike that's coming in baseball, right? I'm not saying that the owners have all the answers, but if you allow the players to run the league, you get what the NBA is at this point in time.
I know we said we weren't going to talk about the NBA playoffs, but you just mentioned it. The Pistons win the East. Phenomenal year. The Knicks, Cleveland was never, at least to this point, they haven't been what everybody thought they could be. If you're anybody in the NBA not named OKC, how are you feeling about having to play the Celtics right now?
Not great.
Yeah, not great.
I mean, you got Tatum coming back. You got Jaylen Brown, who, with Tatum out, was playing like MVP level basketball, showing what he can be. And you got 2 dudes like that now. I mean, they're going to be a tough out for anybody, I know. And I'll tell you what, I am incredibly intrigued by the Western Conference because you have the reigning champs in OKC, still incredibly young. They have their entire team back, reigning MVP in SGA. But then you still have NBA champion Jokic and the Nuggets out there. And you have the up-and-coming Spurs with Wemby and what's the guard's name? That's really, is it Daniels?
Hey, I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, I think it's Daniels, isn't his last name Daniels? But you've got a budding rivalry between OKC and San Antonio. So, and then I mean, I don't know that they can win a series. I think they'll win their first round series, but I don't know if they can, win more than a series. But you've got Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. So the West is going to be incredibly fun to watch. And, the thing that you've got to look at if you're a Western Conference team is how beat up and tired are we when we get to the finals just because of the gauntlet we had to go through in our own conference to get there.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at last year's playoffs on the Western side. Denver played in 2 rounds, played 14 games, 2 7-game series. If they were to beat Oklahoma City, what is the taxing factor? Because more than likely they're going to probably have to play in 7 games in the Western Conference Finals, play the Pacers in 7 games. So you ask yourself, how does a team do that? Plays 28 games in the span of about, month and a half that are all high-level competition. But I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. Bold prediction. Oklahoma City will not win an NBA championship this year.
Oh, my.
I don't believe they will. I do believe it's going to be a Western team. I think the East... I'm glad the East has had their fun this year because we all know who's winning next year's NBA Finals. But I think it's going to be either the Spurs or the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets have what it takes. I think the Spurs, yes, they're up and coming. They're young. But Wemby, he can play out of his mind. But I think the Thunder, they're going to sweep the Suns. They're literally going to kill them. And then I think they lose in 7 games in the semis. I don't know. Something about them, I don't know. And watch them sweep everybody and, go back to back.
Holy cow. I knew the Spurs were good. 62-20?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It came down to the last week and a half. The Spurs were chasing the Thunder for the number 1 overall seed.
Stephen Castle was his name. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The Nuggets just have something. Look, the Lakers are without Luka and Austin Reeves. They're not going to win. Nuggets and Timberwolves intrigues me a lot, but outside of OKC, obviously they're going to destroy the Suns. They're obviously going to move on. But then it comes down to, okay, who do they play? Well, it's probably going to be the Rockets or the Lakers. If the Rockets are healthy, maybe. If not, Thunder move on. Then you have to play the Nuggets or the Spurs in the Western Finals. I don't believe the Thunder can beat them.
So Ryan made a very bold prediction, Josh. He said that the Oklahoma City Thunder will not repeat this year and be NBA champions.
Dang. That is bold. I hope you're right. I did catch a little bit of what the other teams you were talking about. I hope you're right. I just don't know if over 7 games
they're just so deep.
The refs will allow, guys are going to get in foul trouble. That's just and they're physical. And if the refs have allowed Oklahoma City's guards to be so physical and get away with it, that it's I don't see it, but I hope you're right, Ryan.
And I don't know if you heard that. I knew that San Antonio was good this year. My goodness, they won 62 games.
Jeez, I don't
62.
Even know
That's
I don't even know if
unbelievable.
I know.
And I had totally
anybody
forgotten
else.
that De'Aaron Fox was there now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean,
Okay.
so you've got Wemby, you got De'Aaron Fox, and then Stephen Castle was the other guy I was trying to think of. I think it's only his second year too, isn't it? Second or third year,
Yeah, he's young too.
and he was Rookie of the Year, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's Stephen Castle, and then
Wemby.
Wemby went back to back, or
Huh.
vice versa.
Yeah, and then you add De'Aaron Fox in there. That's it's not a bad place to start. So
Yeah, I think you're probably going to get a Celtics and then an Oklahoma City or San Antonio finals would be my guess.
I don't know. I think it's gonna come down to. I think we're all gonna love watching the Knicks lose. I think that's gonna be fun. But I think it's gonna come down to Pistons. It's gonna come down to Detroit and Boston. Can Detroit's young core beat Boston? And if they can't, I do think Boston will win an NBA championship. But I think, and I said it earlier, next year's NBA Finals is going to be the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City. It's going to be a rematch.
oh
I will put money on that.
oh my,
I will put
I do.
hard money on that.
mark it down.
I like it.
It's going to be interesting. I didn't know that the Pacers didn't end up with the worst record.
They were
2 games
games.
clear of they're still the Washington Bullets, let's be honest, but the Washington
Yes.
Wizards only won 17 games and the Pacers won 19. But is it the top 4 all have the same odds? Is that right?
yeah,
Yes.
They all have.
Yep.
Why would it not be 25%? Like make sure the top 4, although there's your tanking issue and things like that, but still.
Here's the problem with everything. Since the Clippers failed to make the playoffs, if that pick, I don't
No,
know,
that counts as a playoff appearance, doesn't it?
it does, but like they didn't make like the.
They're
top
still
eight.
in the lot. Yeah, they're still in the lottery.
It's either the pick that they got from the Pacers, if it falls from 5 to 9. There is a world where if the Clippers move all the way to the number 1 pick, you know who gets that pick? The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
if it's
and it
the
all
number 1 pick, Oklahoma
It's
City
all-
would get it.
If
And
it's a top, either way, since they failed to make like the top 8 in the playoffs,
Yeah.
it's going to the Thunder. And let's say the chips fall the way they fall, and the Clippers get the number 1 overall pick. Devonta Boozer is going to the Thunder.
It's like
Yeah.
the Dodgers of the NBA. That's what it is. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to find the trade.
That
But yeah,
is-
they get the Clippers first round pick. So yeah, it's and it's because
Is
it's
that Paul
it's,
George or what trade was that?
that was Paul
I
George
was-
for
I was-
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wonder who
that
won
was-
that trade.
along with
Uh,
6. It was like 8 or 9 years
So-
of first round picks.
so the Oklahoma City, the trade was in 2019. It got them. They ended up taking and they traded for and got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari to Oklahoma City, and also 5 first round picks.
5.
2
Goodness.
second or 2 pick swaps and the unprotected 2026 first round pick. Yeah,
Oh,
way to
my
go!
goodness
Way to go!
So is it not until the finals that they do the draft lottery?
It's May 10th is the draft lottery.
Okay.
So,
So we will know May 10th. Could you imagine this scenario? And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But that trade that the Pacers made, so they got Zubac, and hopefully, let's say they land inside the top 4. And then what if they brought back Benedict Mathurin? The Clippers make some bad trades. They would have had 2 months of Benedict Mathurin, and they get the Pacers 2031 pick and the Pacers would get top 4 Zubac and then re-sign Mathurin, which I know they're not re-signing Mathurin, but yeah, that would be another all-time fail.
What did he do with the Clippers? Do we know?
I think he was solid, but probably about like he was with the Pacers. Maybe scored a little bit more because he played more. But same thing. Didn't play a ton of defense and put up points on a not so great team.
Okay, very interesting.
But yeah, it's so May 10th is going to determine whether I take Ryan's stance and think the Pacers are back in the finals, or if I think they're
cursed.
1 to 4 seed. Cursed 2 to 4 seed in the NBA next year. And look, who knows? Obviously, Jason Tatum's come back extremely well from that Achilles tear, but who knows how Halliburton comes back? I mean, I'm not glad he did it when he did. I wish it would have been in a pickup game the day after the NBA Finals, but he's going to have a full 18 months basically post-surgery to recover. So he's got he's going to have a normal offseason. He's playing pickup basketball already, 5-on-5. So he's going to have a normal offseason. So you have to think that he's going to bounce back to where he was last year.
Oh, I mean, I have no doubt that he will, and it's just going to be fun, not only because it's the Pacers and it's our team and stuff, but man, the style that they play it, and again, no pun intended, the pace that they play with is so entertaining to watch, and it's just, that last year when they went to the finals, it was just wave after wave would come at you, even when the bench came in. You didn't have a drop-off, and that just kept coming at you, and so it's just a lot of fun to watch, and they're going to have a good portion of that same roster, and it's just a lot more fun to watch, obviously, when Halliburton is out there, and they're obviously much more successful when he is. But it's going to be – I'm excited to get back to watching good Pacers basketball for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh has mentioned it a few different times in things that we've talked about today, and you two are much more up-to-date on it than I am. I always tune in a little bit before WrestleMania to get going, but – the biggest extravaganza in the wrestling world is tonight and tomorrow night with WrestleMania 42, I believe it is.
Yep.
I was late to the party because I watched the first season when it came out. I just finished the first half because there's more episodes coming out. The first half of this season of Unreal. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, if you've watched it before, you should watch that because you want to talk about a behind-the-curtain view of exactly how that is. It's impressive because you can say it's fake. It's not fake. It is scripted because, I mean, the stuff that these guys and gals do is unreal. And, like, there is one of the storylines, I think it was in the second episode, is one of the ladies legitimately gets her nose broken, because the kicks and the punches are supposed to be really close but not hit them. Well, she got hit with full boot to the face, and her nose snaps, and she's just, bleeding all over the place. And that's just one of the many examples. But that is well worth the watch. And what stands out to me when I watch that is their acting skills are impeccable because they make you think that they hate each other's guts and all this stuff. But then you see, as soon as they step behind the curtain, they're hugging and telling each other what a great job it was. And to see how invested, because, again, you guys are much more into it now than I am. And you can question Triple H's decisions that he's made and things. But to see how much he cares about the talent on the roster and he's there for them and all of these things, it really is a pretty cool behind the scenes view of everything. But WrestleMania, what can we expect from the next two nights?
Yeah, I think there's some good matches on the card. I think there are some that maybe the guys aren't great stars to the mainstream media, but they're going to put in some good work, and I think it's all going to be fun. I think. Although the build-up with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton hasn't been what fans want, it'd be just because they tried to build somebody coming back to help Randy Orton. And as much as we all love Pat McAfee, it just doesn't really make sense that it's Pat McAfee. But he's done a good job playing the role of a heel that he's kind of born to do that, right? I mean, he's been great, and he's gotten the fans to turn on him quickly, which is exactly what you want. That should be a good match. But I'm looking forward tomorrow, the first match, it's actually on ESPN2, is Brock Lesnar against up-and-coming, just giant of a man. His name is Obafemi, and I haven't watched him.
Wait. Press pause. It's on ESPN2?
Yeah.
Are they just trying to get it out there for more people to see? I'm confused.
The first hour of tonight is on ESPN2, and then tomorrow's
ESPN.
ESPN. The first hour.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then it goes to all the poor souls that have to buy ESPN Unlimited, or you can use Jason and I's method. So we will be watching that for the price of On the House.
Exactly.
But yeah, this guy's a mountain of a man. The buildup has been great. I don't know if the match is going to be 3 minutes or if it's going to be 12 minutes, but it's going to be a war. I mean, this guy is built like prime Brock Lesnar, and the crowd loves him. He's a young star that they're trying to build, and they did a great job with that. And then, there's some exciting matches. There's like a 6-man ladder match that's going to be fun. Those are always good, even if you don't know the guys who are in it. There's some intriguing women's matches as well. So, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, that's been a story they've been telling for a long time, and those two go way back. Right now, it's Pat McAfee on Randy Orton's side, and Jelly Roll, I guess, is kind of on Cody Rhodes' side, kind of. But I have a suspicion, and I'm not thinking that The Rock or somebody's going to come back, but I have a feeling that somebody's going to come back and help Randy Orton win the title, and that would be 15 world titles for him, which puts him right there. I mean, 18 is what John Cena won, but 15 is certainly incredible. So, yeah, WrestleMania is always great. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be sitting down watching both nights.
And the thing that makes it even more fun is when you have those surprise appearances. Like, last year when it's all said and done and the smoke clears and Brock Lesnar comes out, nobody expected it. Everybody thought that that it was going to go dark, the broadcast was going to be over, and then his music pops. And they always talk about that, the pop. That's what makes it so cool, is those surprises and the excitement that you get from the crowd. And, like, I had totally forgotten about it because I don't follow it as much as I used to. But Seth Rollins, I use air quotes here, Seth Rollins' knee injury last year, when you watch Unreal, like, he had to go out in public and using these crutches and have the knee brace on because they sold it so much. There was only a handful of people in the entire company that knew he wasn't actually hurt. And then, you get CM Punk finally wins the title, and he holds it for all of a minute because then Seth Rollins comes out, and he's kind of hobbling, and people think he's hurt, and he turns around to go back and then drops the crutches, takes the knee brace off, cashes in his money in the bank, and goes and wins the title from him. Just surprises like that. And again, is it a bit corny? Maybe. But I tell you, the way it's guys in tights and girls in skimpy outfits, the storytelling that they're able to put together through a physical medium, it's gone from campy and kind of dopey to it's pretty impressive, the things that they're, not to mention the physical feats that these guys and gals do, from the moonsaults and going off the top rope. And there's times like they'll get on top of those cages, they're dropping 20, 30, 40 feet to do these moves. It's an incredibly impressive thing to watch.
Yeah, they're not. The chair shots are real, man. They're real. And I saw a clip of when Randy Orton was younger and he fought The Undertaker, and he hit him like right across the forehead with the corner of the seat on the chair. And The Undertaker it wasn't supposed to happen, but he was gushing blood. And Randy Orton was a young guy, and what they care about most of the superstars is taking care of the person they're across the ring from and making sure they don't get hurt. Well, Randy Orton comes back and he's like, oh man, like he was trying to avoid The Undertaker, but he wanted to apologize. And so The Undertaker ran into him, and Randy's so apologetic. And The Undertaker said, don't worry, buddy. You'll get your receipt. And then Randy Orton was like, oh, man, what does that mean? And they had a match a couple months later, and Undertaker did basically the same thing to Randy Orton that happened to him. But the Undertaker was doing it on purpose, and Randy Orton knew it was coming. And, you have to accept that. If you're not careful with somebody and you hurt somebody, you're going to get that back.
It's kind of like in baseball. Like, that who's going to get hit by a pitch. Like, it's just kind of that unwritten rule. You don't have to like it, but you know it's coming.
Yep. So there's a lot of matches. Ryan, which one are you looking most forward to?
I'm really looking forward to Seth Rollins versus Gunther. I think this match is going to be Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker of WrestleMania 25. Two guys who, didn't have a match, 3 weeks ago, that were put in together just so they could be on the card. Two of the best wrestlers in the world. And, I mean, just based off Wikipedia, now we can't always trust the internet, of course. It's going on second to last, right before the main event. And I feel like that might be a factor of how Rhodes and Orton is going to play out. But I have an interesting storyline to tell you guys what I think is going to happen over the next couple days.
Uh-oh.
So, everybody knows WWE and UFC was bought by TKO to, more money, all of that. Do you guys remember the corporation storyline from 25 years ago with
I do.
Steve Austin and all that?
Yep.
This is going to turn into a WWE versus TKO build-up with one CM Punk leading the charge for TKO. He will turn heel tomorrow night after losing his championship because, it's Roman Reigns. Of course he's going to lose. But over the next several months leading up to Survivor Series, wherever that might take place, it is going to be WWE versus TKO in a corporation storyline.
All right, interesting. I'm down for something like that. I think Paul Heyman's going to come back and help. He's around, but I think he's going to come back and help CM Punk beat Roman Reigns, and then I think you could see that CM Punk and
he'll
Paul
double
Heyman
cross
running it.
Roman Reigns again, huh?
Again. And then I think, those two guys, CM Punk and Paul Heyman, are tight. They're close. And it's, Paul Heyman's kind of been against CM Punk and somewhat with him here and there. And it's just kind of been wishy-washy. And I think it's time for those two to kind of reunite. And I don't know who the build-up's going to be for, but
Oh, there we go. Stopped mid-sentence. That's okay. So it's a lot of fun. And is Survivor Series, it used to be like it was scheduled around Thanksgiving time.
Sorry about that. Hit the wrong
button.
Still
at that time?
Yeah, it's usually goes Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and then Survivor Series.
Okay, I was going to say I knew when it originally started it was then. What's your guys' prediction? Who's going to be the big surprise returnee that comes and electrifies everybody? Because there's always at least one. 2 years ago it was The Undertaker, and you want to talk about a pop when you had that bell go off. That was cool. It's been a while, and I would love to see it. I don't think – people still love him. I still love him. He's still one of my all-time favorites just because of the promos he could cut. I don't think The Rock gets the pop that you would want. I think he gets a big one. But it's been a while. What would you do if you heard the glass shatter?
That would be – yeah, I would love that. Anytime Stone Cold comes back is awesome. I don't know how they would incorporate that. I think they're going to get somebody smaller, but still important to the wrestling business. I think Kevin Owens comes back in some capacity, which I love Kevin Owens. I think, to your point, Jason, I think he's like one of the great actors and storytellers when it comes to the WWE, even though he's not on that level of major mainstream superstar. But I do think he comes back in some capacity and helps somebody somewhere. So that's kind of my return.
So you're going Kevin Owens, okay? Ryan,
I
what
was
do you
hoping
think?
for Chris. I was hoping for Chris Jericho, but he signed a new deal with AEW. So
Raw is Jericho.
yeah.
There's a lot of names I could probably throw out. I think Stone Cold will make an appearance probably, I don't know, tomorrow night. Just, get the crowd going, popping and whatnot. You know what? Screw it. He didn't show up last year when he should have. Give me The Rock. Give me The Rock. That place, even though they probably don't like The Rock much anymore, that place will lose its flipping mind if they.
Where is it this year?
It's back in Vegas.
Oh, it's in Vegas.
Yeah,
okay.
they went back there again. But that place will literally lose their minds if they hear If You Smell What The Rock is cooking.
I didn't remember that it was there. That he's obviously, he lives in L.A., I'm sure, in Hollywood. That's an easy flight out there. Just a couple hours in Vegas. I could see that more now. This one's kind of out of left field, and I don't know that he's made an appearance in, I couldn't tell you how long ago. What if somehow they could incorporate Mankind? That'd be kind of cool if he came back, like if there's some Extreme Rules match or something, like the ladder match or whatever. That would kind of be out of nowhere. That'd be kind of cool. Or
the Undertaker can always make a return somehow, some way.
I didn't realize it until I watching Unreal that he's back behind the scenes in a lot of these, back there in the gorilla position. He's not in gorilla, but he's at that table. So he's still working for the company and is involved. What if it's like a Shane McMahon? I think
that's a good one. I think
people lose their minds when he comes out, and he's obviously still very involved. He's involved with NXT, I think it is. But what if Shawn Michaels' music pops and he comes out and does something? I think that one would be a good callback too.
I think the sneaky, it would be high odds on the betting board, but the sneaky comeback. I like your Shane McMahon call. What about one Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
That's going to happen before the end of the year. That's going to happen.
What if he makes the return?
Oh, gosh.
I don't, man.
It wouldn't look good at all.
I was going to say, now that they are owned by somebody else, I don't know that TKO would be down with, just because of all of the stank, no pun intended, if you've read any of it, all of the stank that is around Vince McMahon. I don't know that a parent organization is going to want any part of that. It would be phenomenal, but that'd be sketchy.
He would be one guy that, because Cody Rhodes has been a babyface for a long time, and it's about due time for a heel turn just to kind of spice up his character. Could you imagine if Vincent Kennedy McMahon or Shane? I think Shane would be probably the better one, or the more logical one. But could you imagine if they came back and helped Cody Rhodes and turned him heel to retain the title over Randy Orton, who everybody wants to win, and it's one of those guys to come help Cody? That would be an all-time heel turn, and that would get some legitimate negative back or feedback from the fans. It would be a positive negative feedback, if you know what I'm getting at.
Are we so far down the road now, though, with Cody Rhodes that it would almost, not to the level, I don't think he is quite Cena level popular, but he is such a popular babyface. Would it almost be like the Cena heel turn and people just wouldn't buy it, sort of thing? They wouldn't be into it.
I do think people would buy it because he has been a heel before. I think he was in AEW. I just think that, and he can cut good enough he can sell it better than Cena could. Cena did it for 25 years, and it's hard to go from hustle, loyalty, and respect to I hate all the fans. So I don't know. I think you have a good point. Like, he is getting to that sort of level, but I think the wrestling fans are ready for that sort of heel turn. And what if Pat McAfee turns on Randy Orton, helps because everybody wants Randy Orton to win, even though he's the heel technically.
I think that is 1,000% what's going to happen.
Pat McAfee gives the Randy Orton punt to Randy Orton and helps Cody Rhodes retain the title. That would be next level heel stuff from McAfee and Cody Rhodes.
You don't do the stuff like having it set up that Cody Rhodes comes in and messes with the Thunderdome this week on McAfee's show and stuff. And there's no way that you do all this setup just to make the intrigue because, Pat McAfee is and Cody Rhodes don't like each other just so there's intrigue with the match. You do that so that then you've got that flip on the back end of it. I think to me that's the most predictable thing that's going to happen this weekend.
And then you would get Randy Orton still trying to get to 15, and he's going even crazier than he has been now. And McAfee can talk trash about him on ESPN for the next couple months and say how amazing he is and how amazing Cody is. I mean, I think that's a prediction. I think that we could all probably get behind.
It's not quite as easy, but that's almost as easy as Notre Dame, Ohio State, and IU being locks for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
All right, this has been another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. For Josh Lee and Ryan Higginbotham, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.